welcome. Today I am bringing you guys a review for Godkiller by Hannah Kanner. This is the first book in the Fallen Gods trilogy. It came out earlier this year in January, and when it initially released, there was a ton of hype around this book, okay? Like a ton. Everyone was like, it's the next big epic, it's amazing, it's fantastic, it's phenomenal. And I bought it. I bought into the hype, okay? Because everybody was like, it's amazing, it's good, it's fantastic, it's an epic, it's just what we needed in fantasy. And I was like, okay, I'm here for this. And then you find out the plot involves killing gods, and I was like, okay, now I'm really sold. So I bought the book, and I bought the Waterstone Special Edition. And then it came in, and it was this big, and I was like, that's not an epic. That's not an epic. And it honestly turned me off from wanting to read it, because when I think of epic fantasy, I think of a big chonker. This guy is 288 pages, and it took me 3 days to read 288 pages. And it's not like the font is small. It's really big font. So in theory, I feel like it's a lot shorter than 288 pages because it's got a fairly big font going for it too. So needless to say, I was a little turned off initially, so I put it off reading it. What caused me to move it forward is book 2 is coming out in February, and Waterstones put up the pre-orders for book 2, which has matching sprayed edges, and I was like, let me read this first to even see if I should spend my money, because I have a really bad habit of buying an entire series and then reading it and then finding out I hate the first book. So I'm trying to get that under control. So I decided, let me move this up, let me read it. It's 288 pages, shouldn't take long. It took 3 days. That's a long time if you ask me. So with that said, let's go ahead and let's talk about this book. The biggest reason why it took me 3 days to read is because I really felt no compelling action to pick this up. I would put it down and I would just go on my way. I found this to be very boring, very bland. The pacing was very slow. It left me not excited at all. When I would put this book down, I did not feel any excitement to hurry up and grab it again and continue. While I was reading it, I also did not feel the compulsion to just keep going and keep going. The very last day that I was reading this, I had about 150 pages left, and I was like, oh, I can handle that. 150 pages, I should have that done in like 2 hours tops. Took me 7 hours. 7 hours. Because I would read something, feel exhausted, put it down, go do something else, dread picking it up, read a little bit more, put it down, go do something else. It was just not compelling enough to really keep me glued to the book at all. So it took me 7 hours. 7 hours for 150 pages. And that's not normal for me at all. So it was rough to get through. In hindsight, I honestly probably should have DNF'd this. But the thing was, I wanted to give it that chance. I was like, what if it has like this crazy, explosive, turns the whole book around kind of ending? It didn't, but I wanted to give it that chance. And I was disappointed. So let's talk about the world building. I feel the world building lacks very heavily in this. In theory, it sounds really interesting. Humans and gods, they coexist within the same world, and a big giant war happened, and now the humans are trying to kill off all the gods. In theory, that sounds really cool. And you're like, oh my god, yeah, like humans fighting gods, like, yeah, that's awesome. You really don't see it too much. There's really only one big scene. There's 2 scenes that involve someone fighting a god, and that's it. Um, it's like at the beginning and it's at the end. So like the whole middle portion, there's none of this God killing going on. It's not existent at all. It's also a little bit confusing because the author made weapons that can kill gods, which I'm like, smart thinking. I like it. Okay, we got a special type of metal that is specifically made to, take down these gods. There's no exploration into where it comes from or how they discovered that, but it exists. And you would think that using this special metal and killing them, they would stay dead. They don't. So I don't understand the point of killing them if they can come back. It's also not explained 100% how they can come back. I'm honestly taking liberties with how I'm thinking they come back, and that it has to do with spiritual praying and all of that kind of stuff. So that's the only reason they come back, but it's still like a little hazy, a little fuzzy. So that was kind of annoying, honestly, because when I read like a big epic fantasy, I'm expecting certain parts of the world to be fully explained in like the first book, and then other parts to be explored later on as the series goes on. But really nothing was explored. Just like, this happens and this exists and this exists and this exists. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, are you gonna like kind of like deep dive it a little bit more? She attempts to deep dive into the main event that caused the war to happen. I really don't understand, to be 100% honest. I really do not understand the main event that caused the war between the two. I understand that the gods got a little high and mighty of themselves, and they got a little out of hand and started, treating their followers like trash. Like, I completely understand that, but there is actually like a big pivotal moment that happens that causes the war, and I really just don't understand the intricacies of it because I do not think it was explored well and explained well. And a lot of that falls on the fact that the author decided to have bits of information about the war like dropped at you randomly, and normally I have no problem with this. It's the way it was executed is the problem. It just kind of was like, here's some very vague information, not a lot of details. Like, this book really suffers from not a lot of details on the important stuff. Like, you can get like a 3-page detailed report about what they're eating for dinner, but for the war, for the main event of how it happened, it's like a couple paragraphs long. Very unbalanced in how the descriptions went in this book, that it left the world building to feel very lacking, because you were just kind of like, it exists. And you're like, oh, okay. Thanks for explaining to me how you guys made that fish. The other big issue I had was the king and the kingdom, how far his reach works. It honestly felt like he was more of just like this random presence in the background, and not so much as an oppressive force that exists in this world that I am supposed to believe exists. The king's people, like his knights and guards and such like that, you see them like throughout the world. Like when Kissin and Elagast would, go to a certain place or whatever, they'd be like, oh, there's the king's men, because those are his colors. And like, that was it. I think there was maybe like 2 scenes tops, maybe 3, where it felt like the king's knights were a force. But other than that, it really did not feel like the kingdom was present, even though I was supposed to believe that they were. They would visit these other places, get on these trails because they're in a caravan traveling. There's a lot of traveling in this book. And you just didn't see or feel the presence of this kingdom that is apparently there. So it kind of made me feel like the king just really didn't exist throughout the entire book, and that the laws that he enacted really weren't important, because I didn't see any kind of knights enacting this. I think there was like one scene where it felt like a knight was enacting it, but it also just felt like he was a bully, which, I mean, in reality, knights were bullies, but do you get what I mean? Like, you're just kind of like, oh, he's just being a jerk. Like, he's not actually enforcing the laws. He's just being a jerk. Okay, cool. So that left something to be desired, because with the fact that the synopsis talks about a rebellion forming against this kingdom, I'm expecting to see an oppressive kingdom that is wearing people down and being this horrible, nasty force on them, and it isn't present. You don't feel this at all. Which leads into my next problem, is the rebellion did not exist. I think it was mentioned like once, twice in passing, and that was kind of it. And it was like one of those things of, oh, I think so-and-so might have been a part of this. Oh, I think so-and-so was definitely taking part in this. And that's it. That is it. And I was just like, where's the rebellion? What is it? Like, I love a good rebellion. And the synopsis talks about, oh, a rebellion is forming. Yet there was no exploration into it. There was no build up to it. There was nothing. Just a couple of sentences here and there, and that was it. And I was like, where's the deep dive? Where is the rebellion? Where are these people at? Like, can I get a little bit of that? Can we? But no, we did not. So now I'm going to talk about the characters separately because I have issues with them. You only follow 3 characters, and that would be Elagast, Kisin, and Inara. And I'm going to talk about Elagast first because his arc, I feel, was wasted. I honestly 100% feel like Elagast's character and his arc was completely wasted. Elagast is hired by the king to do a special errand for him. And Elagast is an ex-knight, so that's why he was chosen for this, among other reasons. Now, when this happened, I was like, cool. Elagast's arc, that's where I'm going to find out about this rebellion. That's when it's going to happen, because that, to me, is logical. He's out there running an errand for the king, so in my opinion, I'm thinking he's going to be paying attention to the way people in the kingdom are acting, because the king has told him there's whispers of a rebellion starting up. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, he's gonna like see things here and there, hear things there and here and there. No, it happens once and that's it. That's it. There was zero use of him exploring any kind of rebellion, and it would have been the perfect character to do so because of his connections back to the king. He was completely wasted, if you ask me, and it was very disappointing because it was there. Like, the setup was there for him to have been able to discover something, anything, and it didn't exist. That was it. And I think it's because the author wanted him to meet Kisin, which does happen. He ends up meeting Kisin, and they all end up traveling together. And that, for me, was pretty much the downfall of the book when the two of them met. So we'll get to that. So Kisin, when I started this book initially, the prologue is the best chapter in this entire book. I'm going to tell you guys that right now. The prologue is the best. Everything else is not. That's my opinion. And Kisin, when you meet her in the beginning, she is mean. She is brutish. She is just nasty. She doesn't care about anybody. She doesn't want to be anyone's friend. She's not here to make friends. She likes being by herself. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I like this. Like, okay, girl. By the end, she didn't feel like that too much. And I understand character growth, but I don't feel like her character growth actually existed. It was just kind of like, I don't want her to be mean anymore. That was how it felt, because her and Elagast really lack any kind of depth to them separately. And then you put them together and there's still no depth. And the third character you follow is Inara. Inara is, in my opinion, who the main character of this story should be. All of the best and most compelling plot points revolve around Inara. She also has the most plot points. When you break them down, Kisin is like, I just want revenge and kill all the gods. And Elagast is, I have to run this special errand for the king. And that's it. That is the extent of, like, their arc, honestly. Like, individually. Like, that's the extent. And they only further Inara's, which isn't handled well either. But Inara, it's She's got a god attached to her. She doesn't know why. She doesn't know why her mom kept her a secret. She doesn't know why nobody knows she exists. She doesn't know why she has these magic powers that she has. She doesn't know anything. She is completely clueless to everything. And she partners up with Kissen because Kissen's a god killer, and she's like, you know stuff about gods. And Kissen's like, I don't know, I just kill them. And so they travel together to try and find answers. And nothing gets answered. And that is the most frustrating point for me overall when it comes to Inara, because like I said, I was most interested in all of her storylines. I wanted some answers. Now I understand not answering everything. I completely understand not telling me all the answers in the first book, but you have to answer one or two if you're gonna have a lot. And that was the thing. The author had so many threads involving Inara, and she answered none. And what made it worse was there was a moment when a few things could have been answered. And the author decides to make Kissen be an idiot and go, we don't need those answers. If Inara wants me to know, Inara will tell me. And I was just like, listen here, you dumb little idiot. Inara doesn't know. Literally. That's literally why she's traveling with you, because she wants answers. She doesn't know. How do you expect her to answer if she doesn't know? You guys have no idea how mad that made me. You have no idea. You have no idea, because I was like, I was so hyped. I was like, oh my God, we're finally gonna get some answers. I'm gonna know something, like a little bit. Like, I'm not gonna know everything, but I'm gonna have like one or two answers. Nothing. And I was like, fun, great, how awesome, because we decided to make our character stupid. That's great. So outside of that, every event felt weightless. There was no depth to them. They held no actual weight to them. There is a big betrayal at the end of the story, and it could have been so good. It could have been so good if the author had let us follow the character who did the betrayal. I don't understand what the author was thinking when she did this. But yeah, she has the betrayal happen by someone who we spend 1% of this book with. And that is it. And while other people more than likely saw this coming, I didn't, because I just was not interested in the story. So I really just, I wasn't looking for those moments. And so when it happened, I was like, oh, anyways. And it could have been so good. It really could have been. So that was really disappointing. It was really disappointing. There was such a big opportunity missed to really make that betrayal like hit hard and like make you go, oh my God, how could you? But instead you were just like, oh, anyways, next page. Now the story does have disability rep, and I think certain aspects of it were handled decently and other aspects were not. In regards to Kissen and her disability, I think the author did do some research in dealing with a character who has a prosthetic leg, because we do get some moments where Kissen is taking care of it and she talks about the pain that she has sometimes. So there was some thought and care that went into the portrayal of Kissen and her disability, and I do appreciate that. I'm not saying it's 100% great, and I'm not saying it's 100% terrible, because I am not disabled, so I don't know, but from an outside perspective, it looks like it was handled decently. There is also sign language in the book, but I think it was handled I have read other books that involve sign language where the author takes the time to kind of explain some of the hand motions that the characters are doing while telling us what the character is saying. And this one, it was more just like blah 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 blah, they signed. So it was kind of very lackluster. And then the last disability, because there is like a character who's in a wheelchair, which they were just a background side character, but the one that I think was handled the worst was Elagast's PTSD. It's kind of glossed over. It's not really explored. It's handled in a manner of, if a character walks up to him and just goes, "Oh, it's okay, just calm down, it's all right," then he's fine. And I'm just like, that's kind of not how that works, because when a lot of people go into PTSD moments, it can be violent. And he was having flashbacks to the war. He was shaking. He was hyperventilating. He's starting to sweat. He's like remembering what happened and everything. And it just takes someone going, "It's okay, calm down." And I was just like, this isn't handled well at all. And it could have been something that could have been handled really well. It could have honestly been something that could have been like a very strong, compelling point to carry out through all of the books, but I don't trust that to happen now, especially considering how simple and easy it was for the love interest, which I told you guys there's three people, and Inara is a child, so I know you guys can deduct who the love interest is. So the fact that all it takes for this love interest to go is, "It's okay, it's fine," and everything is a-okay, I know it's not actually going to be explored, and it's not going to be used in a manner that's really going to hold a good amount of depth and weight to it. So I think that was executed very, very poorly. There is also queer rep in this, which is great because we love to see it. We love to see lots of queer rep. I will say I do think that Canner had used the bi representation poorly. When I talked to my friend about it, she said basically it sounds like Elagast is the man who can make kissing straight, because when you start the story out, it's just Kissin likes women, her greatest love is a woman, she's women, she's all about those women. And I'm sitting here thinking, cool, we got some sapphic romance going on, like this is gonna be kind of cool. Like, Elagast will probably just be like the guy on the side, like a friend. No, because then, like 50-ish% into the book, the author just kind of like sideswipes you with this romance. And she doesn't do it lightly. It's very blatant and in your face. She says the sentence, "Their faces were so close it was like they could kiss," 3 times. 3 times. That exact sentence, word for word, 3 times. And I was like, okay, I see where we're going with this. How fun. And then there are moments where, from Kissin's point of view, she's like, "Oh my God, he's so strong. Look at those muscles. Oh my God." And from Elagast's point of view, it's, "Oh, she's so pretty. Oh my God." And I'm just like, and then the story honestly just kind of focuses on trying to build this relationship, which honestly has no depth to it. It's very surface level, and I think a lot of that is because the characters themselves are very surface level. There's not a lot of personality to either one of them, and them coming together doesn't make either one any better. So it's just very lackluster, and I'm just kind of like, okay, can we move on now? Can we go back to Inara? Because once the romance happened, like, that was really when the chances of getting anything answered about Inara was just not going to happen. It just wasn't. And the worst part is, like, if you removed the romance, you would miss half of this book would be missing, because it takes up such a chunk of the end of it. And it would honestly be even worse. That's my opinion, honestly. I just don't think it was good. I think the story would have been a lot stronger without it, because it just wasn't a strong romance at all. It was just, okay, they can kiss, oh my God. So yeah, the action left something to be desired. There's a fair amount of action scenes, but like I said, most of this is just traveling, and then like they have like a quick fight scene, and then it's traveling, and then a quick fight scene, and then it's traveling. They're well choreographed fight scenes, but there was just that element missing that really made you go, "Oh, this is a good fight scene. This is entertaining. Like, I want to keep going. I'm liking this. Yeah, this is good stuff." It was missing that. I don't know what it was. The magic was just not there. I was just like, okay, like, are we done yet? It felt exhausting to like read through the fight scenes. So yeah, overall I was not impressed by this. The entire story, from the world building to the character building to the romance, it's all very surface level to me. There's not enough depth to it. This is not an epic fantasy at all. This is just a fantasy with very little effort, honestly, put into it, when it could have been something so good. I will say, if you like the fantasy books where the romance aspect is like a big heavy part of it, you more than likely will enjoy it more than I did. I have noticed since reading it, the people who do like this book and do hype it have a different reading perspective than I do, and they love the romance, whether it's good or bad or meh. It's 5 stars to them regardless, because 2 people had sex. And unfortunately that's not me. Like I don't care if if the author wants to like put a sex scene in there. I just want the characters to actually have chemistry, and I want the romance to actually feel like it's a budding romance personally. That's me, but that's what I have noticed. So if that sounds like it's up your jam, like, you'll more than likely enjoy this. If you aren't big on heavy world building and heavy plot points, you'll enjoy this. But if you're looking for like a big epic fantasy and you're looking to be like super entertained and be put into this lush filled world where the lore is extensive and you get all of this knowledge based on it, you're not going to get that in this, and you're more than likely not going to be impressed by it. I would recommend doing a library version if that is the case. Either way, check it out. It's up to you. Every reader's different. It's all subjective. I personally think this could have been better. So I will not, at this point, I don't really have any kind of motivation to pick up the next book. I'm definitely not buying it. I will be selling this copy. And if I do decide to get it, it'll be through the library, but I'm honestly thinking I'm going to wait and see what the reaction is to the second book. But I'm going to kind of like hold my breath on it, because like I said, the girlies who like the romance are more than likely going to continue giving it a high score, just because of the way they talk about the first book. So I don't really think this is a series for me overall. So it's a very low chance that I'm going to continue on with it. But that is my review of Godkiller by Hannah Canner. So if you have any thoughts or opinions or anything, you can put them down below in the comments. Like, subscribe, all of those great things, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.